Now then, it's the Smash Bros here, bigging up the UFC, the MMA card. Got a bit to talk about this week, a few bits of news, quite a bit to discuss on last week's card. You know, Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva. Bit of a preview of what's coming up tonight in the Thiago Santos Glover Teixeira card, and then a bit of a talking point, the main event of the podcast, who we think the pound for pound is going to be a year from now, our top 15 in the UFC. Men's only, just men. Women, it's Amanda Nunes. It's always going to be Amanda Nunes. She ain't going anywhere.
Exactly.
So it's here, the big dog, your host for the day. With me is KDiggy and Jimbo Slice. How are we doing, gents? You well?
Fantastic, mate. Feeling good. First podcast. Let's get it underway.
So, a bit of news coming in the last 24 hours or so, broken by ESPN. Darren Till, scheduled to fight Jack Manson on 12th of December, is injured, pulled out. Pretty devastating for the Brits. I know I'm pretty gutted about it. I think Jack Manson's probably the most winnable fight in the top 10. So I'm a bit upset about that injury. What do you boys think?
Yeah, it looks like it's an injury to his knee, which has come resurfaced from the Whittaker fight, which is a shame. Till's obviously English, and obviously with the boys being English in here, you have to follow your countrymen. But Kevin Holland stepping up is exciting. You know, we saw what he did last week, and he's already talking that smack to Israel, and it'll be a really interesting fight, and it could propel him right to where he needs to be in that division. So it's still an exciting fight. I'm not too heartbroken. If they cancelled the fight and didn't say anyone was coming in, I would have been. But with Kevin filling his shoes, can't complain.
What do you think, Jimbo?
I do take issue with the comments about Jack Manson being one of the most winnable fights in the top 10.
Yeah,
I take issue. I think he's an excellent submission artist with some great hands, to be honest. He does worry against people with power. He worries against people with power and he panics. But I think, to be fair, it's his fight to lose here. I don't know why he took it. It's a lose-lose fight. If he loses, he's lost to an unranked man. And if he wins, he's beaten an unranked man in Kevin Holland. And I do like Kevin Holland, but I don't know why he took the fight.
Well, apparently his coach, manager, whoever it was saying that he just wanted to fight. They were putting it out to ranked people. No one wanted to bite. I think it'd have been a really good match for Weidman to take, to be fair. Propel him straight back into that top 10, top 15, get him back, his name back known. The reason I think Manson's I'm not here to discredit him. I think he's a fantastic fighter, but when you look at the way he's won his last few fights, arguably fluky submissions. Aside from the Jacare fight, where, you know, fair cop to him, he did outlast him, but Jacare got tired. It's a tough weight cut for him to get down to 185. But I agree with you, Jimbo, that it's a lose-lose for Manson, because if he loses, he's lost all credibility in the rankings. If he beats him, he was expected to win. But for Kevin Holland, I don't think it's a fight he'll win. When you look at, you know, a fighter like Brendan Allen a few fights back, absolutely dismantled him on ground and submitted him. Jack Manson's much better on the ground, so I think it's an easy night for Jack.
We'll see.
I agree. I think
we'll see. Yeah, I think it's an easy one for him. And speaking of December fights, on the Leon Edwards Khamzat Chimaev card, potentially rumours whirling around Stephen Thompson against Jeff Neal. It's going to be on that card.
Love a bit of Stephen
Beautiful.
Thompson. Favorite
fight.
Whole of the UFC, Stephen Thompson. I love it.
That's a beautiful fight. I mean, you've got Jeff Neal, absolute powerhouse, comes in there, just smashes the fuck out of everyone, takes no prisoners against, you know, like you're saying, KDiggy, you know, one of the most tactical and technical strikers in the UFC, not just the welterweight division. I think it's a great match. Who'd you like for it at the moment?
I'll always back Stephen. Always back Stephen Thompson. The loss against Pettis was just a heartbreaking one. He was dominating the fight. You get Superman punched off the cage. It broke my heart when he fell to the ground. But he picks himself up, the world's nicest guy, takes on these guys at the bottom of the division when he should be asking for these guys at the top. That's why he's the nicest fighter in the UFC.
I think it puts him in good stead as well if either Edwards or Chimaev gets injured. More so comes up because he was asking for a fight with Leon and they were giving him nothing. Edwards refusing to fight him. So I think that it's a great match should Khamzat fall out. But I agree with you. I think Thompson's going to win. He's too technical. I think over 3 rounds as well, he'll just piece him apart. Jimbo?
I can see this fight going very similar to the Vicente Luque versus Stephen Thompson fight. I can see it going down in a very, very similar manner. I wouldn't be surprised if Neil came out with a victory, but I can just see Thompson take his time, being a great fight, but ultimately coming out with a victory. Also, I've just a bit of news that isn't on the plan there that you've just talked about with Leon Edwards facing Khamzat Chimaev. I'm a bit concerned due to UK lockdown too. What will happen with that fight? I'm just putting out there. Is Leon Edwards going to be able to train?
I think he'll be able to train because he'll be able to train. It's just a question of the quality of training partners will be able to get him more than anything. It'll probably be a case of they'll treat it more of a boxing camp than an MMA one. It'll be tailored around him. They'll have him and they'll be bringing people in for him as opposed to it just being general training with a game plan being introduced. They'll just specifically be training for him. But yeah, I hadn't even considered that, Jimbo. That's a great point. I mean, is he even going to be able to travel? Is he even going to be able to get over there?
He might have to try and
I think that might
be brother.
That might be why he put Thompson on.
He might have to fight his Bellator brother.
Fabian,
yeah.
Fabian Edwards.
Slap up Fabian. Get ready for Khamzat.
Awful fighter. Only reason he's where he is, only reason he's main eventing events and, getting co-main slots in Bellator is because he's Leon Edwards' brother. He does not deserve those spots. Awful.
Love it.
Yeah. Another bit of news kind of coming out. We had Israel Adesanya fight Paulo Costa on that same card. Jan Blachowicz won the title. Dana White now saying that Izzy's next fight will be against Jan for the title. So quite a big matchup, to be fair, when you consider how he's fought in the UFC. His size. He's long. He's quite tall, but he's not necessarily the biggest fighter. So how do we all think he's going to fare up going up to light heavyweight?
I'll take this first. As you know, I'm a big fan of Jan Blachowicz. His grappling is something I think he really needs to use in this fight. He is an underrated grappler. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. In this fight, he still gives up the height. He's 6'2". I think he's 6'4", but he'll have the power advantage. He'll have the strength advantage. He needs to take him down, hold him down, and in a way, do what he did to Nikita Krylov. Smother him, sink in a choke. But I think it's Izzy's fight to lose. But I would much rather have Jan win for personal reasons.
Of course you would.
We'll save his predictions of this fight for later on in this podcast because I'm sure it's going to weigh quite heavily on our pound for pound list. But what are your thoughts on the matchup, KDiggy, at the moment? Without telling me who you think's going to win.
I think what James has said is everybody's game plan going in against Izzy, try and get him to the ground, out-strength him. But he's dealt with it. Well, how many fights has he had in the MMA, in the UFC and beyond? It's just he just knows how to beat you. He knows how to beat everyone. Yeah. He's on a journey, and I think it's. I won't say anything else, but you can sort of guess where I'm going.
I agree with both of you. I think the main factor for me in this fight is going to be strength, and is the extra £20 for Izzy going to give him more strength? Because Jan, he's a big boy. He might not be the tallest light heavyweight, but he's certainly, one of the widest. He's not small by any stretch. He is going to be giving up some size to Israel, but will the strength be in his side or will it be on Izzy's? And I think that's going to be the deciding factor. Like you said, Jimbo, the game plan's got a bit of taking him down, holding him down and get that choking, but it's just a question of whether Izzy can stay on the outside, leg kicks, body kicks, jabs, and just work at distance for 25 minutes. It's a great match, a fantastic match. compelling, some might say. But speaking of recent championship wins, Khabib last week beat Gaethje. Said on the post-fight interview that he was Oscar's going to retire. It wasn't last week; it was 2 weeks ago. Now, where's the time gone?
2020.
Said he's going to retire. Dana's not so convinced. He reckons he's going to come back for 30-0, and there's negotiations going on at the moment. So Jimbo, who has muted himself, who do you want to see Khabib? Do you want to see Khabib come back and go for 30-0, or do you want him to go now?
To be honest, I want him to go. If he would return for a fight, I'd like him to return for the Tony Ferguson fight.
Yeah.
But I want him to do what he wants. What's best for his family. If his mum said retire, don't be forced into coming back. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see that Tony Ferguson fight because I think as Styles makes fights, just because Gaethje knocks around Ferguson for nearly 25 minutes doesn't mean that Ferguson wouldn't beat Khabib. Khabib probably would win, but I would like to see that fight. I want to see him face someone who's big because Tony Ferguson won the Ultimate Fighter at welterweight, and I want to see someone who's got the jiu-jitsu, which really surprised me was Gaethje's lack of ground game. When he was taken down, taken down so quickly. It was a bit concerning. It feels like if he fights anyone in the top 10 now who's got decent ground game, they've realised there's a big hole here for Gaethje. Get on there.
It was heartbreaking watching the Khabib Gaethje fight for that very reason, because if Tony Ferguson had bothered to try and take him down, we could have had the beloved Khabib Tony. We could have had it. But instead, he chose to stand and trade. And like you said, Jimbo, he absolutely spanked him for nearly 25 minutes. Apart from when he dropped Gaethje right at the end of the second round. But heartbreaking. KDiggy, what's your thoughts on the return of Khabib?
I agree mainly with Jimbo here. I think if you say on camera, you take off your gloves, you say on camera that your mum wants you to retire. I think you have to retire, don't you? But if he comes back, you guys know who I want him to be against. I want that GSP fight, that 30-0. Who is the GOAT? Probably John Jones, but who's the GOAT down here, below the light heavyweights? Is it GSP, or is it an aging GSP, or is it Khabib? It's the fight his father wanted, and it's the fight the fans want. Well, apart from you two.
No, I don't want it. How can you say that Khabib versus GSP, who hasn't fought for over 3 years? For over 3 years. He has not fought for 3 years. How can you say that him returning from retirement to fight Khabib is to decide who the greatest of all time is? That's like Joe Calzaghe coming out of retirement in 2013 to fight fucking Tony Bellew at cruiserweight to see if he still got it. You know what I mean? It's pointless. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable.
He's
completely agree with you.
He's training. He's working hard. He's still got it in the tank, GSP, and it's the greatest of all time. UFC's been running since 93. Is it 93? 1993?
Vitaly Klitschko coming out of retirement and saying, "You know what? I've done it for 8 years."
We're not talking about boxing here. We're talking about MMA, and we've got GSP, who is an MMA.
It's the comparisons.
An MMA god against the person who wants to be undefeated in life.
He hasn't been a full-time active competitor since 2013.
7 years. 7 years. He's gone. He's retired. He is the greatest of all time. You can't wheel him out every time that you want to see if someone's up to the challenge.
He was fighting for championships before he was 10. Before he was 10 and had 10 fights, he was fighting for world championships.
That's how good he is.
Just saying.
Yeah, I think it's laughable. The idea that's to decide the greatest of all time. Would I watch it?
I'm not the only one that's saying it.
Would I watch it? Of course I would.
He's beat everyone else. He's beat everyone. There's no one else to fight apart from the God, GSP.
Though there is one person to fight. And if he comes out of retirement, the only fight that I want to see is Tony Ferguson. That's the only Khabib fight that interests me. I'm not asked about seeing him fight Conor again. I'm not bothered about seeing him fight Dustin Poirier. And I think it's just a question of, can they justify giving Tony Ferguson a title shot coming off a loss? That's the only hurdle there. But moving swiftly on, and I'm going to bring up Khabib Tony again momentarily. The Ultimate Fighter is returning for a new season in March. Bantamweights and middleweights. For me, the only choices for coaches here, it's got to be, when you're considering the timescale as to when it's going to be and when the finale is going to be and when the coach fight's going to be, it's got to be Khabib Tony. I know there's rumours going around that it's going to be Usman Burns, but can they really justify Usman not fighting until like July? It's too long. It's too long for him to go between fights. Khabib, Tony, coaches of that. You're getting that Dagestan style in there, coaching style against Tony Ferguson, who's been there, he's done that, he's won the tournament. That clash of coaching styles and then matching up at the finale, International Fight Week in July.
I like it, but Khabib's got bigger fish to fry than doing an Ultimate Fighter. He's going out saving the world. He's going to Russia. He's going to the Middle East. He's got bigger things. He's got bigger things on. He's a global superstar. He's not going to go all the way back and go into doing a few trainings.
What a way to get the show back on the map, though. You know what I mean? For the last few years, probably I'd argue since Ronda Rousey did it against Miesha Tate back in 2013, it hasn't really been on that many people's radars, apart from the maybe the straw. Was it strawweight? Oh no, it was flyweight. The flyweight one where it decrowned the women's champion. It's not really been on that many people's radars. I've watched it because I love it, but what a way to get it back on the map, get people back interested in it, than to put Khabib, arguably the sport's biggest star, as one of the coaches.
Can I take this one, Jimbo? Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna rush in here, and you guys have seen the flyer today. It has to be Colby, my man Colby against Masvidal. That will be friends turned enemies. You've got two of the biggest personality, well, up there in the top 10 personalities in the UFC. They hate each other. Well, they hate each other. We don't know how much they really hate each other. They were best friends a few years ago, and it'll just show another side of Colby that people need to see, because he's got this act, and we'll see if he'll be able to keep that act going all the way through a TV series. And the amount of fire that he'll have against Jorge, their two teams going against each other, I think that for me, it's so exciting. Is it more of a personality than a fighting style? Sorry, James. Sorry, Jimbo.
I know. I completely agree with everything you said. I'm just going to put out my personal choice of Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler, and that's all I'm just going to say on this topic.
Nah. You can't have Michael Chandler coming in as a coach if he hasn't had a fight in the UFC yet. It's not. People don't know who he is. I see where you're coming from. It's kind of, the Bellator champ, one of the, considered the best outside the UFC. But until he's really proven himself in the UFC, I don't think you can justify him doing. I mean, look when it was Bisping against Jason Miller. You had them two on there when Jason Miller had just returned to UFC, but he was a bit of a known commodity outside. I don't know how much people really know Chandler enough to justify putting him as a coach. I'm tough.
I agree with what you're saying, Al. Just wanted to be a high profile.
What would you rather see, Khabib Tony or Colby Masvidal? Jimbo.
Colby Masvidal.
That's fair. That's more than fair. It'd make a good show, but I think it just beautifully set up that finale fight against Khabib and Tony. So that's all I've really seen of kind of recent stuff that's worth talking about in the news of the UFC. So we'll get right into it and talk about last week's card, where the main event was Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva. We'll only touch on a few fights here. We'll start with the prelims very briefly. Yanez Rodriguez, beautiful knockout. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's pretty filthy, actually. And then the return of future great Alex Hernandez against Chris Grutzmacher. Beautiful knockout. Again, where Alex Hernandez putting himself back where he needs to be as one of the top prospects in the division.
They needed that. They needed that more than anything. After him running his mouth against Cowboy, and after him losing his last fight, it was if he lost this one,
he would done money. And the way Drew Dober dismantled him last time, we thought in that second round it were violent. So I think to come out here, put out a statement knockout like that in the first kind of 2 minutes of the fight does wonders for him.
All the best.
Greg Hardy, wife beater Greg Hardy coming out and beating, Maurice Green as expected. The thing with Hardy for me is he can beat these cans. I'm not that's a bit harsh on Maurice Green, to be fair, but these lower level heavyweights, when he fought Volkov, he got truly classed and handled for 15 minutes. It wasn't 5 rounds, it were 3. But where do you think Hardy goes from here? What do you do if you're the matchmakers? Where do you think is the next fight for Greg Hardy?
See, now I know what I'd do. I'd just feed into Cyril Gane. I'd just let him get. I'd just let him get demolished by him. Yeah. I'd just let him get demolished by him. Build up Cyril, and that's what I'd do.
100%. I love it.
Do you think Cyril would demolish him though? Do you think he would?
Yes.
I mean, let's have a look.
Yeah.
How's Cyril done?
Cyril's artist and he's got the stamina and he's got the knockout power and he trains with Ngannou. He's got everything. That boy's on the way up.
Yes.
Cyril's my man, and I respect you for saying that, Jimbo. 100%. I like it. Greg Hardy, Cyril Gane.
Well, Cyril Gane's fighting Junior Dos Santos.
Yes.
At 256. I didn't even know that was a fight. I was just checking to see what his next.
He's going to knock out JD.
That's a huge fight. I know we're talking about last week's card, but we need to talk about this. This is a great match.
Yeah.
You've got JDS on it. Has he lost 3 on the bounce now? Or has he lost 4?
Lewis.
He's lost 3 on the bounce. He's lost to Ngannou, Blades, and Rosenstruck. So it's kind of do or die for JDS this fight. He's got to win. He's got to win big to still be kind of considered one of the top players. If he doesn't win, I think he's either Bellator or PFL bound, to be honest with you. I think it's do or die.
What do we think about Hardy Harris?
Walt Harris.
You mean the best striker in the...
No, just to go against each other.
I think it's a good fight. I think it's a great fight, to be quite honest with you. I think it'd more be a question of, can Walt Harris's chin hold up for that initial kind of 8 minutes or so against Greg Hardy? And if it could, I think he'd win. But the fight for me, the fight I was going to say they should do, just because I think it'd be pure fireworks. Greg Hardy tied to Ivasa.
They'll be seeing each other. They have to, don't they? I think
that's a big fight.
I think it's in the making. It'll be a very good main card fight. Very good main card fight.
Beautiful main card fight. But I kind of question where Greg Hardy's going to go as a fighter. He's not really shown anything up to now that would strike me as a gentleman who can get that championship belt or even crack the top 5. He's come into the game quite late. Hasn't come in too late, and I think he needs these kind of bigger fights now against the kind of lower end of the top 15, than people that are just breaking into the top 15 to see where he stands and see what he can do, because, the clock's against him and he needs to work fast to kind of get up to that level.
He has just recently changed coaches as well, hasn't he? So it might all come together for him.
It might. We'll see. But yeah, he looked good. He looked really good against Maurice Green, but my concern was his gas tank. I just don't think he was pretty tired at the end of that first round. But moving on to Fug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, unanimous decision against Andre Touchy-Feely. Did we all see that fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought he looked great. Did Bryce. Had he not been able to get Feely down, I think he might have been in trouble, as was shown a little bit in the second round. I think 30-27. I didn't agree with it. I had it 29-28. So I think when he comes up against that fighter that has got that proficient takedown defense, I think Bryce will have some trouble. But until then, he's going to keep flying and keep going through the division for my money.
Agree with everything you said, 100%.
Yeah, I was expecting a bit more of a domination from Bryce, to be honest, after his last performance. I think Feely did well getting back up after getting taken down, but overall, yeah, you had to give it to Bryce. In the end, he had his camel shorts on, and he didn't let us down. He didn't let anyone down. He didn't let down Arkansas.
No, he didn't at all. I mean, when you look at his place in the rankings now, they've got him at 14. So kind of people above him: Ryan Hall, Shane Burgess, Dan Ige, Sadiq Youssef, Jeremy Stevens, and then the person I think that he should fight next, Arnold Allen. I think that's I think that's a great fight to kind of work out who that next kind of future title challenge is going to be. They're both coming into the UFC, been doing some great stuff. I haven't really come across anyone that's been giving them much trouble yet. I think it's a great matchup for both of them to propel them to that next level.
It's just a shame that Stevens was put to ruin.
Yeah,
that Ryan Hall one wouldn't be bad though. That would be a technical fight.
I think Ryan Hall would make lunch meat out of him.
He'd get him in guard, grab his leg, snap it.
I think the thing when he fought down in Elkins, last summer, when the last person was willing to fight him, he completely dominated him on the feet as well. Ryan Hall, I think's. I'm big on Ryan Hall, very big on Ryan Hall, and I think he's got potential. If he can get a few fights together, get a good run together in that top 15, I think he could be quite easily challenging for a title in the next 2 years. Very strong competitor.
They're running scared.
And no one wants to fight him. I mean, he was going to fight Lamas, wanted, but they wouldn't give him. Lamas pulled out, I'm pretty sure. No, Ryan Hall pulled out. Lamas could fight, but Hall got injured. But great match. And then the main event, Uriah Hall put in what some would describe as the final nail in the coffin of Anderson Silva's career with that 4th round TKO. For me, and I'm sure it's the same for both of you boys, just a very depressing fight, to be quite honest with you. Very depressing. Shouldn't be in there, and it really showed. Kind of first and second round, did fight quite a good fight. As you were saying, Jimbo, you had him winning, didn't you? Until he got knocked out.
Yeah, it was just a depressing fight because I like Uriah Hall as well. So Uriah Hall didn't come out and put on an amazing performance that you could sit there and go, "That was fantastic. That's what I want to see." But it was a slow, depressing fight from his side, and then he won. And then you see the legend on the floor, unconscious, hugging Herb Dean's legs.
It was very reminiscent of his loss against Chris Weidman, wasn't it? That shot of him on the floor hugging Herb's legs. And the thing for me with Anderson, when you think about, going back to 163 when he lost the title to Chris Weidman, from there, he lost to Weidman again. He had the no contest against Diaz after he popped for his
PED.
Dodgy Viagra. Michael Bisping, he lost to. Daniel Cormier, he lost to. He beat Derek Brunson, who questionably beat Ahmad. Very questionable win. And then lost to Israel Adesanya, lost to
Cannonier.
Jared Cannonier, that's it. And then he's lost again to Uriah Hall. I mean, KDiggy, when do you think the time for Silva? When should Silva have retired? When should he have gone?
There was reports that he was going to go before that first Weidman fight, and Uncle Dana bought him a brand new Bentley to keep him sweet. But he's always got that fighting spirit, and he joined the UFC when he was quite old, and he's like almost a granddad now. But he should have gone really after that second Weidman fight. After you do your leg like that, you don't want to the fans don't want to see. Your family doesn't want to see you like that in the ring. Your fans don't want to see you like that in the ring, and you don't want to feel like that ever again. So I'd probably say the best time for him would have been to let it go after the second Weidman fight. But you can't really say, can you? Now it's
done, isn't it? It's done. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I think personally, I don't even think he should have done the first Weidman fight. He should have gone after he beat Stephan Bonner. That beautiful first round knockout where he kneed him straight up the chest, fell to the ground in front of his hometown, Rio de Janeiro, in front of his own fans. What a way that'd have been to go out. And what are your thoughts on this, Jimbo? When should he have gone?
He should have gone, in my mind, after that lackluster performance in the Nick Diaz fight. I know at the time he thought he won. He wasn't himself again. I can see doing that Weidman fight. He wanted it. And then I would completely understand going for the rematch because he believed himself that he'd been playing around the octagon and got knocked out.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I saw Chris Weidman being a professional, turning up, doing his job and actually winning the fight because he won the first round. But it was that lackluster performance in the Nick Diaz fight that, to me, was the start to the end for him. And I just want to touch on something that KDiggy said. He said that he was really old when he started the UFC. I think the interesting thing there is that he had his first title fight at an age older than Khabib is now, which I think is something that is very interesting.
It is, and I think the thing for me with Anderson Silva, watching him back in the day, even lose the Bonner fight when he beat Chael Sonnen in the rematch at I think it was at 148 or 147. Beautiful performance. That would have been a great way to, finish his career. And when you think about, you're saying the Nick Diaz, the no contest, the drugs, I think this kind of post 2013 run of Silva's, for me, has tarnished his legacy, and he stayed a lot longer than he should have done. So it really does you can't really look at him as in the conversation as the GOAT. He's up there, but he can't be considered the GOAT purely because of he stayed too long. When you look at someone like GSP that got out at the right time, possibly even Khabib. So for me, I just think it's a real shame that he's gone out as he has. And do you want to see him fight again, KDiggy?
Silva?
Yeah.
No,
he's done in it. What about you, Jimbo?
Throw him in bare knuckle.
Throw
him in bare knuckle.
He can have his debut against. Have him fight Hector Lombard or Johnny Hendricks.
Or Gabriel.
Oh God, can you imagine that? That'd be terrible. So this week, great matchup at the top of the main event. Potentially number one contenders back against Thiago Santos Glover Teixeira. Instead of running through the entire card, we'll touch upon the fights that are on the verdict. Great app if you haven't got it. Have a look at it. You put your picks in, you put your XP in, and you go against your friends for your picks. I will touch on, though, Darren Elkins returning in the preliminaries on a 4-fight losing streak. Huge fight for him. Needs to win. Otherwise, again, Bellator or PFL bound, I'd say. So we'll get the verdict up, get it up on his phones now. So they're putting 5 fights up. First one being Claudia Gadelha against Yang Xiaonan. Strawweight, women's strawweight. Big fight. They're kind of in the middle of the top 10. Jimbo, who have you gone for?
I've gone here for a Yan via decision because Claudia Gadelha has the stamina for 1.5 rounds.
Yeah.
And it all depends on that second round, who takes control earlier and who wins. But I think, to be honest, in general, I think Yan's just the better fighter all round. And the stamina of Claudia is she in my mind, she lost the Angela Hill fight.
I agree. I completely agree.
She's on her way out.
Yeah. What are you saying, Jimbo? Not Jimbo, KDiggy. What are your thoughts?
I'm the same. Was it six significant strikes a minute? I think she's on, and she'll be relentless, and I think she'll get the win for China.
Going to be a bit boring, is this one, because I've gone for the exact same pick. and I completely agree with the sentiment of Jimbo here. Claudia Gadelha, she's good for 1.5 rounds. If she can go in there and dispatch her quickly, which she hasn't really shown much of doing in the UFC, she'll win. And I think that's the only real path to victory for a quick, brisk finish in the first 8 minutes of the fight. Otherwise, it's Yams to lose. Next one, bit of a contenders matchup in in the middleweight division. Ian Heinisch against Brendan Allen. I'll start with you, KDiggy.
Yeah, bookmakers can't decide between these two. They split right down the middle, as I am really. So I'm gonna flip my coin, and it's gonna land on Brendan Allen for decision.
That's interesting. Jimbo, what are you saying?
Now, I've gone the other way. I've gone for Ian Heinisch by decision. I think he's a bit of an underrated fighter. I know he had a bit of a skid when he lost to Brunson, but he took a round from Brunson. He's underrated, and he's the more proven commodity. I think he's had more time to grow in the top against the top tier fighters in the UFC.
That's fair. I agree with both points. I'm with you, KDiggy. I've gone for a Brendan Allen decision. I'm contemplating even changing that to a Brendan Allen submission. In fact, I am going to change it to a Brendan Allen submission in the second round. I like Brendan Allen. I like him a lot. I think he's a great fighter. When you think about, I see what you're saying, Jimbo, in that Heinisch has had a better run in the UFC, more fights, but Brendan Allen lost in the UFC. And I'll just make that point there. He beat Kevin Holland, he submitted him. Not a top 15 guy, not a proven top 15 guy, but when Heinisch has come up against some of the bigger boys in the division and in the form of Omari Akhmedov and Brunson, he's lost. I think this is Brendan's fight to lose, and I think he's going to make mincemeat of him on the ground for the entirety of the fight and get a submission halfway through the round. So this fight coming now, Rani Barcelos, Khalid Taha. I'll be right honest with you. I haven't got much of an opinion on this one. It's not one that I'll be quite honest, I'm not massively familiar with either fighter. But my pick here was Rani Barcelos by decision. And the reason I picked that is because Khalid Taha, looking at his run in the UFC, lost at Nadner Imani, not a great guy, not proven. He's lost a couple of fights himself. Beat Boston Salmon in a 25-second KO. I remember watching that fight, but Boston Salmon's got a shite chin and has now been released from the UFC. And then his previous fight before that, he tested positive for PEDs, whereas Rani Barcelos, just a better run, better record. I think it's his fight to lose.
You say you don't know much about them, but that was a fair history lesson on it, to be fair, mate.
You might think that you'd be shocked to find out that I may or may not have the Wikipedia page of them both up in front of me now, having a quick read.
Oh no, you didn't make.
But I remember watching the Boston Salmon fight. I think the issue.
But to be honest, I'm very similar to you.
Yeah, so from what I've heard here, this was from what I remember, this is Dana White's "If You Don't Know, Now You Know." He mentioned these two guys and said it's going to be. I think he was saying that these are going to be a big knockouts on the way. So I've actually gone for the underdog according to verdict here, because I just want to try and get that XP up and get away from the big dog, because he's catching up, and Jimbo Slice is not too far behind. So I'm gonna cross my fingers, because I don't know too much about these guys either, and I'm going to go for a Khalid knockout in the second, and hopefully get 2,940 XP for my troubles.
I've gone for a Barcelos decision. Very similar reasons to the big dog. I don't have much more to add. He summed up the full fight history of him perfectly.
What can be said? Wikipedia is a beautiful entity, isn't it, boys? So, fight, I've got to say, aside from the main event, when this fight was first announced, very excited. Anytime Andrei Arlovski's in the cage, it's either going to be the most boring fight known to man, or he's getting viciously knocked out. And today, I think he's getting viciously knocked out in the first round by Tanner Boser, to be quite honest with you. I think Tanner Boser, great fighter. proven himself this year with some pretty quick knockouts. I think he's had 2 first round this year alone. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I think he's up and coming. Andrei Arlovski's slowing down. He's on his way out. If Tanner Boser's finding his strength and his knockout power that it looks like he's been doing, I think it's going to be a short night and a quick, violent knockout for him. Jimbo.
Well, I have actually picked Andrei Arlovski on verdicts to win this fight. I don't think he is, but I've done it for the XP reason, as I have done with one I've done during the main event. I love Andrei Arlovski, great fighter. As you say, very recently put on boring fights, and his chin's gone. But just due to that early heavyweight champion vibes, I just can't pick against him. He's one of my boys. I can't go against him, but he's probably going to get viciously knocked out.
Yeah, when you think about who he's fought, I'm just having a quick nosy now. Beat Andrei Arlovski, beat Felipe Lins by decision in his last fight, took him 3 rounds. Tanner Boser fought Felipe Lins, beat him in 2 minutes and 41 seconds by knocking him out 6 weeks later. So I think that really kind of says all you need to know about these 2 guys at the minute.
Yeah, I'm going Boser in the second. Hopefully Arlovski can survive that first. Have a bit of a scare at the end of the first round and just get popped at the start of the second.
I love Arlovski and his run when he returned to the UFC in 2014 until he got stopped by Stipe in January in 2016. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I love a good Cinderella story, and I'd love to see nothing more than Arlovski win this fight. But I think his time's gone, and I think Boser is going to be the next guy to finish him off. And then the main event, a great matchup, huge matchup. Thiago Santos Glover Teixeira. We'll come to you first, KDiggy. What are you saying?
The hammer's coming down, first round, knockout. Thiago Santos, let's go. I'm going against the old man. That's it. I've ever since Thiago Santos has joined the middleweight division.
In the light heavyweight
division. Apologies.
Yeah.
He's come from the middleweight division onto the light heavyweights. I've backed him against everyone, against Jones, and he's just brought in the money every time. So Thiago Santos is my boy, and he's got huge fists, and he's got the big hammer on the sternum. There's no way Glover has a chance.
Jimbo.
Right. Now, my head says Santos. My heart says Teixeira. And that's what I've gone with. I've gone with Teixeira. I've gone with a 3rd round submission. Don't get me wrong. I am so concerned about him shooting for a takedown, then getting elbowed in the side of the head like he did in one of his previous fights, and then just taken down and just destroyed. I am concerned about that, but I can see keeping him at bay, trying to slow him down, and then wrapping up a submission. I can see that happening, but I don't think it will. But my heart is saying Teixeira. And we all forget Teixeira is Mr. Hands of Stone. He does have some power himself. And I think it might be one of the more powerful people that Santos has fought since he's moved up to the light heavyweight division. Don't get me wrong, he fought Jimmy Manuwa, but I think Teixeira's got a bit more power in his hands.
So it's me that's going to make the decision on this one for who is the choice fighter who's going to be 2-1. And for me, I think it's very easy to look at Thiago Santos and think, oh, I nearly beat John Jones. I had him winning that fight, I'll be quite honest with you. I had him winning rounds 1, 2, and 5. I think that fight was a lot closer than the John Jones-Dom Reyes fight, and I don't think it gets enough justice as a talk of a robbery. But he's coming back off quite a long layoff after some pretty disastrous knee injuries, and I think that's going to impact him. I think this is Teixeira's fight to lose, to be honest with you. I've gone for a Teixeira submission in the 4th round. I think it's going to start off Santos coming in hard, coming in quick, trying to get that knockout. Teixeira he's a savvy old man in the game. He's been in the UFC for 8-9 years now. He's been in the game for a while and he's consistently been at the top. He's going to weather the early storm and he's going to finish him in the 4th round with a submission. I think Santos is going to blow his load very early, having not fought for so long. And when you consider who Santos has fought at light heavyweight, Eric Anders, middleweight, Jimmy Manuwa, shot chin, and then Jan Blachowicz, very close fight until Jan got reckless. So I think it's a great match. And I think it's going to get to share in a prime position to be a number 1 contender.
Beautiful.
We'll come back. All right, so the news is done, the recap's done, the preview's done. Now it's time for the main event. Something that, aside from this recording now, us gents have been discussing and debating for quite a while. And really what we're going to discuss is we've got the pound for pound, we've got the top 15 now in the UFC, the men. What do we think that pound for pound list is going to look like a year from? We'll say the end of 2021. The end of 2021, how's that going to look? So the way we're going to do this, we'll each do 15 to 10, and then we'll discuss it, and then we'll move and we'll go through and get to our top decisions. So we'll start off with you, Jimbo. 15 to 10, who we got?
I'm going to write these down.
My number 15 is a bit of a joke, but we know he's got heavy hands, this man. He comes out, he tries to knock you out in the first round, then he fails, and then what he does is he wrestles you for 4 more rounds. The man is Michael Chandler, I've got at 15, because I can see him. I genuinely can. He gets in there. All he needs to do is beat someone like, if he needs to beat Gaethje, and then he's in the top 15 and pound for pound, because I love Gaethje, but I don't think he has that jiu-jitsu on the ground. Now, my 14 here is, I believe this man won't be the champion of the welterweights at this time. I've got him as number 14. I've got Kamaru Usman. I'll come to my reason of why I've got him there later. Number 12 I have is Dustin Poirier.
What about?
I believe he is.
What about number 13?
13, sorry, I meant to say 13 is Dustin Poirier. It's the same number. It was the same one. It is Dustin Poirier. I think, to be honest, he's probably a mainstay of the top 15, but I think he's going to lose to Conor if he fights him. I love Dustin, but he does seem to get into his own head, and I think that's what will happen again. Number 12, this man, I do not see him being champion at the end of 2021, but I think he will be champion in between that time, and I think that man is Khamzat Chimaev. I see him beating Leon Edwards. I love Leon Edwards, one of my favourite fighters, and I see them just going, right, let's put him straight in against Usman. I see him beating Usman, but I see him losing to the man who I've got down, who I think might be the welterweight champion at this time. And number 11, another man I think might not be champion at this time is Alexander Volkanovski, is number 11. And they're my 15 to 11.
15 to 11.
Any questions?
Interesting.
So you're predicting next year, in the next 12 months, is going to be some real demolition in the welterweight division. I can't wait to see who you think's going to be champion. I can't wait to see who you think's going to be champion in that division. I've got it narrowed down to 2 people at the minute.
I know who he's got going on it, but yeah, we'll see. That's exciting.
It's one of two, really. It's either going to be your boy, KDiggy, in the form of Colby, or it's going to be Gilbert Burns. Volk, that's an interesting take. I agree. I don't see him being champion this time next year. And then Poirier, I'm curious to see who you think is going to be champion of the lightweight division. If not Poirier, I am very interested. But KDiggy, what are you saying?
Cool. Right. So not so, we've got a few in there, not so similar, I'd say. So we've got 15, someone who's sort of around this point anyway. We've got Gaethje. I think Gaethje will be sticking around here. He'll probably win one, lose one, stay around this point. I don't see him with the championship belt around his waist. 14, Francis Ngannou. I think he'll have that heavyweight title shot. I think he'll lose, and I think he'll also have a good win under his belt as well in 2021, and still be flirting with the the potential of having another shot at the rematch. Someone who's always in the pound for pound, I wouldn't put him in there, but I'm going to have to put him in here at number 13 is McGregor. You can't take him out because I think he's, well, let's not be too crass here, but he's always there. He's always there, shall we say? And then we've got 11, which I've got here as the man who will eventually, I think, be the baddest man in the world, Curtis Blades.
Oh, he just missed out on my list. He just missed out on mine.
He's going to have a good year, Curtis Blades, and he's going to be, I think, by the end of 2021. The end of 2021, he'll be very close to that, having that heavyweight title shot.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Just remind us of yours again, KDiggy. I'm just keeping a note of them. So I've got 15 Gaethje.
Yep, and then 14 Francis, 13 McGregor, 12 Blades. Oh, and then we've got 11. Sorry, I'm miscounting here. 11. I've got Davidson Figueiredo, who's going to lose his flyweight crown.
Gonna lose. That's interesting.
He's going to lose his.
That's very interesting.
Crown.
I can't wait to find out who's going to lose it too, but we won't find that out for a bit.
You'll see.
Very different. Very, very, very different people in both of yours. I'm just looking over them now. There's no similarities at all, is there, between you two boys?
Not yet.
Not
at
yet.
all.
No.
I ain't got a lot to say about yours at the moment. I agree. I can't really go into it too much without ruining mine, but we have one that's the same in there, KDiggy. We do have one that's the same. But we got anything that you'd like to say about that at the minute, Jimbo?
No, to be honest, it's hard. Is the bottom 5? I think they were the hardest ones. They were the ones I was struggling with the most.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of valid points. I was thinking, do I put Curtis Blades in there? Because I think Curtis Blades is a future title contender, if not champion. It's just he needs to go out his cardio.
Yeah, man.
Full disclosure, Curtis Blades is not in my list because I think he's going to lose to Derek Lewis when they fight next. It's this month. God, it's not long now till they fight. I think Derek Lewis is going to beat him, but then I don't rate Derek Lewis that highly. I think he's just good for a one punch, and he just kind of keeps going.
He's the best.
I'll get into my list. So I agree with what you're saying, Jimbo, and I'm sure KDiggy shares the same sentiment. The bottom half of this list is incredibly hard. The first half's relatively easy because it's just a question of who do you think is going to be champion of what division a year from now. So it's quite easy to work that out. And then going from that is try to work out who's going to be a top contender or who's just lost in their title fight. But my number 15, I've gone for it, Zabit Magomedsharipov. I don't think he belongs at the top of the featherweight division. I don't think he's proven himself over 5 rounds. He's had a 5-round fight in the UFC, but he seems to keep on winning. He's good for 2 rounds. And I think at some point in the next year or so, he's going to have another fight. He's going to set himself up for that title shot. But I do not think he will win said title shot. Mark Henry coming out in the last few days, his trainer saying that they're trying to get someone to fight him. I think the Yair Rodriguez fight must have fallen through, which is a bit of a shame. But hopefully we'll get that at some point. But like I say, Zabit going to get a title shot, but he will not win. But good enough to be in the top 15. Number 14, I agree with you, 100% KDiggy. Ngannou is going to get the title shot the same March. For me, I like Francis. I think he's a specimen. He's very big. He's very strong. But he hasn't shown anything in this more recent run that he didn't show before he lost 2 on the bounce. You know, Stipe beat him before. Stipe's shown improvements in his game. And I just don't think that Francis has improved enough to beat him without getting a fluky knockout in the first minute of the fight. He's going to come forward, swinging like he's got nothing to fight for. He's going to miss, and he's going to get beaten to a 5-round decision again. I then put number 13, my boy, Frankie Edgar, bantamweight. I think he's going to be there or thereabouts at the top of the division. I do. I think he's going to be there or thereabouts next year. I think he's going to get he's not going to have had a title shot, but he's going to be in the firing line for one at some point in the not so distant future. He's one fight, maybe 2 fights away. I think him against TJ Dillashaw would be a great match for TJ upon returning to the UFC following his 2-year suspension. If not, Frankie Edgar against Cruz. But I rate Frankie. I've always rated Frankie. I'd go as far as he's my favourite fighter. I think he's top pound. I think he's going to be top 15 pound for pound next year. Number 12, unproven commodity, but I think he's got the goods. Michael Chandler. I think he's going to do something in the UFC. He's going to win his first fight and he's going to be there or thereabouts for a title shot. He might have had it at that point, or he's going to be having it in the not so far future. Be a compelling matchup, great matchup. And then number 11, bit of spoilers as to who I think will possibly be the light heavyweight champion this time next year, but it's Jan Blachowicz, number 11. We'll save that one for later. You've been giving me some right eyes in that one, KDiggy.
A lot of things has to go right for this to happen. Frankie Edgar. Wow.
Frankie Edgar.
I think
he looked great. He looked good against Pedro Munoz.
I think a Frankie Edgar from 10 years ago would be a great fight with Dillashaw, but I'm not too sure now.
No, I like it. I like Frankie. I think
he got pieced up by Holloway.
Yeah, but Holloway's like a foot taller than him. He's fighting people his size now, KDiggy. He's fighting at his optimum weight class.
He's fighting people who are 10 years younger than him.
I think he'll beat TJ, and I think he'll be lining himself up for a title shot back end of next year.
I'll give you that one. If that happens, mate, it'd be a fantastic shout. If Edgar's in or around that top 15 this time next year, fair play to you, mate. Fair play.
I like it. Have you got anything that I see you laughing away in there, Jimbo?
I love the Michael Chandler shout out. I love it. I love the Chandler shout out, and I love the Blachowicz shout out. I was just happy. It was just making me happy.
I think the thing with Michael Chandler is we don't know what's going to come. We don't know how he's going to look. He's either going to come in and he's going to look phenomenal, or he's going to be an absolute bust like Will Brooks was. He's either going to be Alvarez or Brooks. He's going to be no in between.
Exactly what I was going to say. Is he Eddie Alvarez or is he Will Brooks? And
Hector Lombard.
My thing with him, he has great knockout power. He's got good hands, but he gets tired. He does get tired. Yeah. Just Chandler is one of his issues.
I think it's a great fight.
I think the beat was an interesting one as well. There's a lot of talent in that featherweight division, and it's just an interesting shout to put the beat. And it was one which I was heavily thinking about as well, but I didn't. Yeah. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes for the next ones.
But the thing for me, like I said at the start, this bottom half is incredibly hard. It's pretty much who do I think is going to be there or thereabouts next year. The top half's easy. It's the second half. It's the bottom half that's not as easy. But Jimbo, who've we got in your 10 to 6?
Right, my number 10. Now this is a person. I think, as I said, it's ridiculous shouts, but I think Chandler's first fight's going to be against Gaethje. I think he's going to beat him. I think Poirier is going to fight Conor. I think Conor's going to beat Poirier, but Poirier is still very high in the rankings, so I think he's got a bit. He can still fall a bit and still be in the top 15. But I think Tony Ferguson is going to take on the Chandler after he's beaten Gaethje, and I think Tony Ferguson is going to be there as number 10. I think he's going to take that time. I think he's going to be there as number 10. Now, number 9, I think, is Davison Figueiredo. And I think this is a man who will have lost his title. I think he'll have lost his title to the winner of the Battle of the Brandons. So that is a clue who I think is coming up later on. My number 8 is Brian Ortega. I think if the Brian Ortega who faced the Korean Zombie shows up against Alexander Volkanovski, he's going to win. He can choke him out. It reminds me of the fight when Frankie Edgar fought Ortega, and as soon as he shot on him, and you could see that start of the squeeze, the guillotine, it took away half of Edgar's game, and I think he can take away that wrestling side of Volkanovski's game just by the being scared of the jiu-jitsu, and he can beat him up on the feet. Now, number 7, I think. Now, I was thinking Figueiredo's going to get through his next challenge. but I think he's going to lose to the winner of the winner of the Battle of the Brandons, and I've gone with Brandon Royval as winning of that. I know he's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but he looked good against Elliott, especially in that later half, and he looked brilliant against Kai Kara France. The only thing that concerns me there is he did get knocked down right at the beginning, so what would he feel like against Figueiredo's power? And number 6, one of my favourite current fighters, the Funk Master himself, Aljamain Sterling. I think he's going out there, and I think he's out.
Early doors, mate. I'm loving your list. I think it's.
Yeah, I like this list. There's some interesting points. There's one major discrepancy that both of you have said now that I completely disagree with you on. In the form of Figueiredo, where I think he's going to be this time next year, but we'll get to that when we get into my list. Ortega, completely agree with you, Jimbo. I think if he can get past, if the Ortega that fought the zombie turns up, I don't think he'll have any trouble with Volkanovski whatsoever. He's too long and he's too big for him. His game's too rounded. I just don't think Volkanovski has anything to offer him. Brandon Royval, that's a big claim, massive claim to put an unknown commodity like him in the top 10 pound for pound. That's a bold claim.
I think I'm just riding high off that brilliant fight against Kai Kara France. So I think that's why I put him in.
I see.
What are your thoughts on that, KDiggy?
As I say, I think it's a great list. As much as it breaks my heart to say, after what happened to Ferguson against Gaethje, I think he's just going to start slipping. He's my favorite fighter, but I have to say it as I see it, and I think Ferguson's going to slip. I like the Ortega shout. I like the Sterling shout, especially after that performance against the Korean Zombie. It was just masterful. It was incredible. Yeah. Shaved his hair off, and it wasn't like who was it? The mystical character who shaved his hair and he lost all his powers. It wasn't like that. He came out better. Royval, as you've touched on there, Big Dog. It's in a year. It is
big claim.
It's a
big claim.
We saw how quick 2020 went, and I just can't see Royval jumping up that quick. But he's a special talent. He's in flyweight. I think he is because he's quite tall, and I think he can dominate. But I don't think it will be a turnaround that quickly, personally.
So, Jimbo, I take it you have Jan losing the title. Then is he nowhere in your top 15?
Unfortunately, my current favourite fighter is not in my top 15. I've got a whole story playing out here for what
Peter Jan. I meant Peter Jan. I didn't mean Jan Blachowicz. Peter Jan.
Peter Jan. No, I believe that Aljamain Sterling's winning, then knocking Peter Jan, and then Jan, and successfully defending by the end of 2021, and Peter Jan will lose at some point again. I don't think he's staying in the top 15.
That's interesting. I mean, I have the same sentiment as you, Jimbo, in terms of Peter Jan. When you consider who he's fought in the UFC, and I'm not saying he isn't a good fighter, but I don't think that he's beaten enough of the top of the bantamweight division. He's still very much, to say he's champion, a very unproven commodity in that division. He beat Aldo, who was on a 2-fight losing streak to get the title. Before that, he'd fought Uriah Faber, who'd just come out of retirement. Jimmy Rivera, fair cop. He beat him, but before he dropped him in that fight, he wasn't winning. So I think it's compelling to see where we go.
That's the thing about Jimmy Rivera, the Jimmy Rivera fight. He knocked Jimmy Rivera down a few times, but from what I remember, but Jimmy Rivera outstruck him.
Yeah,
and he didn't get in the amount of times he knocked him down, he should have got a 10-8 round out of it at least.
Yeah. And this is where KDiggy Dawg comes in now, and Peter Jan's very close to the top of his pound for pound list. But yeah, you're 10 to 6, KDiggy.
Okay, so it's one which might hurt Kieran. The Big Dog. Sorry, using your government name. My number 10 is Kevin Holland. I think he's He's beating the Joker.
Scandalous.
He's going to, and he's just going to rain fire on the division. And by the end of 2021, he's going to be having that middleweight championship fight against, well, we'll see who against. So man,
that's wild.
Is Holland.
That's wild.
It was a questionable one, and now what's happened? Now with the Till injury, I feel like it could definitely.
You'd made that decision before that fight was even announced.
No, I was coming and ahhing with it, but now it's come through to fruition with him fighting the Joker before the end of the year, and he can only go up after the Joker. I think Holland is destined for spanking. He's destined to go.
I thought my Royval pick was out there.
Fair
That's
enough.
out there. That's very out there.
Next one, we got Kamzat, number 9. If he just keeps fighting the way he does, Mr. Uncle Dana will just catapult him into this pound for pound. I think is his new teacher's pet, and we know what happens when you're the president's teacher's pet. You go into the pound for pounds. Next one, we've got. I'm going to change it last minute. So in here I've got Holloway, but I'm going to change it to Ortega because just having flashbacks of that fight against the Korean Zombie, I'm going to change it from Holloway to Ortega. It's one that I've been juggling with, and I think I'm going to go Ortega for that one. So we've got 10, 9, 8, 7. Right, okay, 7. My new flyweight champion is Cody Garbrandt. He's going to come into that division and they'll have never seen power like it. Every single punch he throws is going to destroy that division, and he's going to take it by the chops and run with it.
That's a big shout. That's a big shout.
It's where he wants to be. It was close. It was close to having that title fight at the end of this year. He's got what, 13 months now to get himself there and to win it. I can see him doing it. And then I've just got one more.
To be fair,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Cool, 6. 6. I've gone the same as Jimbo. I'm going to go for Mr. Sterling, who's going to win the bantamweight championship because he's an absolute beast. He's just got his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu, and he can strike. He's got it all, Aljamain, and he's not been given a fair crack at the whip yet. But it sounds like he's next in line. So fingers crossed he can get that win over.
December, they're saying, aren't they, for the Aljo Jan fight? I think it's a big fight. I think I agree with both of you. Aljo, I have him winning that fight quite comfortably. I don't think Jan's going to give him any real trouble. But Kevin Holland, no, that's laughable. Absolutely laughable. You're there scoffing at Frankie Edgar, former lightweight champion, proven at the top of multiple divisions. But then you've got the audacity to put Kevin Holland in your top 10 pound. I think that's absolutely scandalous.
I thought I was being ridiculous throwing Brandon Royval in there. I thought I was just at least he's ranked. At least he's ranked in the top 10 of his division.
Cody Garbrandt, I think it's a hot take. It's a good take. I can't go into it too much because then I'll be disclosing elements of my list in a bit. But I'll let Jimbo take the floor on that one because I think he was going to say something.
Do you know what? I can see it happening. They're very hot on. I said as he went back to Davidson, it's very hot on Cody Garbrandt. I can see him being put in that division, put it there, and I can see him winning. But the only thing is, will his chin be drained? And Figueiredo hits hard. Figueiredo does hit hard.
He does. I agree.
Will Cody's chin stand?
That's why I've still got him in my top 15. But I think it's Cody time, baby.
Right. That's a big claim. And I know we're kind of getting to the halfway point of doing these lists now, but I can't wait to look back at these a year from now and see who was the closest, or if any of us were even remotely close. But my number 10, I think he's ranked around here now. I think he's going to maintain. I don't think he's going to do much wrong in the next year or so. Colby Covington. I don't think he's going to be champion. We've got the Usman-Burns fight to come. I foresee him having that rematch at some point down the line with Usman. I'm divulging a bit of information for later on in my list there. But I think he's easily the second best in the division behind Kamaru at the moment. And I just don't see anyone giving him any real trouble. Masvidal, I don't think would be able to contend with him on the ground. That relentless force. You saw what Usman did to Masvidal. I think Colby would do something very similar. Number 9, again, I think easily the second best in the division now for this guy. Only really lost to one person in the form of the champion. That's Bobby Knuckles. I think he's going to stay strong at the top of the middleweight division. I don't buy into this narrative that Kevin Holland is the next guy for middleweight. I just don't at all. He's farcical, fanciful ideas coming from KDiggy. I think Bobby Knuckles is going to be there or thereabouts still for the next year. I see Jack Manson beating Kevin Holland and them two having another number one contenders fight whilst Izzy goes up to fight Jan Blachowicz. And then I have number 8, will be bantamweight champion next year, will not be bantamweight champion by the end of the year, Aljamain Sterling. As we've already touched upon, he's going to make Peter Yan look like an amateur. He's going to do whatever he wants to him for 25 minutes. If he wants to finish him in the first minute, he'll finish him in the first minute. If he wants to play with him for 25 minutes, he will do. He's definitely going to be champion by the end of this year, but I do not think he'll be champion next year by the end. Number 7, again, Ortega. You boys have put him in there. Going to beat Volk with no real hardship. I think Holloway, I don't think is going to be a player in the featherweight division for much longer, to be honest with you. From what I've been looking at, what I'm thinking, I think he's following a BJ Penn arc at the moment. Tries to challenge for a title above. Lost. Won his next fight quite comfortably. Lost 2 on the bounce in a fight that people thought he should win. I think his next fight will come out strong, but I don't think he's going to be at the top of the division for much longer. He's been in too many wars, and the weight cut's too tough for him. So I think from the next fight for the title, Ortega, Volkanovski, it's going to be the Ortega era at featherweight, and he will do whatever he wants. Then number 6, my pick, full disclosure, in my pound-for-pound list, Khabib's retired. He's not a player in it. He's not involved in it at any point. So if people say, "Oh, why ain't Khabib here?" That's why he's not here, because you can't have a retired fighter in your pound-for-pound list. Dustin, I think Dustin's going to beat Conor when they fight. He's motivated. He's got that fire under him. In what's arguably his most embarrassing loss to date, he wants to come out there and prove that he's got it. And I think the McGregor of 2021 when they fight is not going to be the McGregor 2014, 7 years ago when they fought. It just doesn't have that fire and that energy anymore. And I think Poirier is going to give him a good fight and win. He's going to fight someone for the title, we'll say Michael Chandler, because he's the last lightweight, the only other lightweight on here. And he's going to be champion. Dustin Poirier, lightweight champion by the end of 2021. That's my 10 to 6.
Would you say if you're Dustin Poirier and you beat the golden child that is Conor McGregor, will you be higher up than 6th?
Is Conor McGregor the golden child now, though? When you look back at what he's done, the last real fight that he won. I'm not gonna put any shade on Cowboy Cerrone, because he's been in the game for a while. But the Cowboy Cerrone that fought Conor McGregor is not that was a number one contender against RDA in 2015. Is it? He's over the hill. It's about time for him to retire. He hasn't had a proper fight that he's won since Eddie Alvarez in 2016. 5 years ago.
I completely agree, but that's not in the UFC's eyes to.
But when you look at where Conor is now in the pound for pound, what is he? I'll just get it up in front of me now.
He's top 15.
He's 11th. Can you really justify? Justin Poirier, breaking into that top 5 if he beats the number 11 guy? I don't think you can.
Number 11 in the world, I think you can.
No, he's. I think it's not going to do much for him in terms of the ranking if he was to beat him. I think number 6. But there's reason it's number 6. There's a reason it's number 6, as you'll find out when I go through my 5-1. Any comments, Jimbo, for you?
To be honest, quite a solid list. I agree with most of them in some way, shape, or form. The only thing I don't agree with is I do think Dustin at the moment is a better fighter than he was that time ago. But I do think Conor, if he fought again, would win because Dustin, it feels like he gets in his own head. I just feel that. I feel like he can't. He gets in his own head, and he doesn't perform his best when he should do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's more than fair. You're right with Dustin. He's very much against two people in that cage, and he's against the person across from him, and he's against himself. When you look at his fight against Dan Hooker, the first couple of rounds, he allowed that mental game to slip, got into a bit of a brawl, but as soon as he got his composure back, he won quite comfortably. So I agree with that sentiment there. But yeah, Jimbo, if you've got no more comments to make, and if KDiggy, we'll have your 5 to number 1.
Right, my number 5 is who I predict this person wins the welterweight championship in the December pay-per-view. And I believe that person is Colby Covington.
Oh.
I believe, as I said, Usman defends against Burns if that fight even happens, because I honestly can see as soon as if Hamzat beats Leon Edwards, throw him in a title fight next. And I think he beats Usman because I think Usman will overlook him. And then I feel Colby comes in December pay-per-view, co-main event, and goes and uses his pressure and his pace, because we haven't seen what Hamzat can do in 5 rounds yet. And I feel like Colby's cardio can keep him to the end, and he either gets a late stoppage or he wins in decision. Now, my number 4 is who I think will be lightweight champion. And I don't think they would. If I was ranking them myself, I wouldn't rank them number 4th best in the world. But we all know people like that, cash money, there ain't nothing funny. And I think this person would be Conor McGregor, because I think they'll do whatever they can to get him lightweight champion again, because they want the money. Number 3, at this point, I still think he would be the heavyweight champion of the world, Stipe Miocic. I believe he'll successfully defend against Francis Ngannou and another heavyweight contender who is not John Jones. I don't think John Jones is going to make that jump. I don't think he is. While I have as number 2, I have Israel Adesanya, who I will think will be number 1 for the majority of the year. I think he'll be number 1 after he goes up and as he takes out my favourite fighter, Jan Blachowicz, takes him out. And then the December pay-per-view in the main event, here comes John Jones to reclaim his throne and wrestles Israel Adesanya, because he's a much bigger heavyweight. He's a light heavyweight. He's a man who fought at heavyweight, and I believe in the December pay-per-view he takes his light heavyweight crown back. I don't think he's as good striker as Adesanya, but I think he's got that reach. He's the size, and I'm not the biggest Jones fan. PEDs all the way, but I think that's what's going to happen in the December pay-per-view, and I don't think he's going to make that jump to heavyweight. I don't think he is. And that's my number 1.
That would be a great story if that was to happen with Jones. That's a tantalising fight. Is Israel Adesanya against John Jones? Tantalising, beautiful matchup. Ooh, beautiful. Let me just get another look at that.
Quick question while the big dog's having a look. So you're saying Jones beats Israel in the December pay-per-view at the end?
Yeah.
So would you have, Jones beats Israel, but would you say Israel would slip down the rankings after that, or would he stay at 2nd?
He'd go from 1 to being number 2.
But what about?
Yeah. I believe he.
But if Stipe is still the heavyweight champion, and how many times does he defend?
Once, maybe twice.
And he stays at 3.
Yeah, I think the UFC underrate him. I think they'd rather have Israel ranked higher, because Israel will still be the middleweight champion.
even when he's just lost.
Yes.
I see you, but when it's 1 and 2, it's not like 6 beating 1. I see where Jimbo's coming from. I see both sides of the argument. But if he's only just lost to the person that's below him and they switch, then it's not like it, but I see what you're saying. If Steve Pay at this point of times had 2 title defenses, matched the record of consecutive defenses in the division, there's got to be an argument for him being second there. Surely there's got to be.
I agree there might be an argument, but it's the UFC's rankings. This is what I think they will look like. They're not my rankings in the year, they're the UFC's.
Right then, I agree. I have nothing further to add. Have you got anything before you get into your top 5, KDiggy?
No. If James's list does come to fruition by the end of 2021, it'll be a bloody good year. So I like it. So
Kevin Holland makes it's a miracle.
I'm gonna keep getting digs for that. Cool. Right. Okay. So for mine then. So what we've got here, so at number 5, I'm going to change things around a little bit from what James has said, and I'm going to go for Poirier, because Poirier is going to beat McGregor. In my scenario, I can't see. I think Poirier's just the work he's put in for the past, what is it now, 7 years, and while McGregor's been selling and drinking whiskey, I just think Poirier will just have him. I think he'll just be in a different mindset. He's not going to be scared of being taken down. He'll be able to strike with him, and I think Dustin will smash him. So we've got Dustin at 5, and then now I'm just having a look. So I'm going to go for Izzy at 4. So Izzy number 4, because I think he will fight Jones, and I think he will lose, as you've said, and I think he will slip to the 4th position rather than staying 1 and 2. But I can see your argument as well with that one. Number 3, I just can't see him being beaten between now and the end of the year. He's too good. He's too focused. He's too switched on. Even my favorite fighter can't even beat him. So Usman is going to be number 3. He's too well-rounded. He's like him and Colby are both perfect fighters, but I just think Usman's just got such a hard head that no one will be able to smash him. So I've got Usman 3, Miocic 2. So I don't think Jones will fight for a heavyweight championship until 2022. And I've got Jones at number 1 because I think he's going to beat Izzy. And I think that's all he's going to do next year, to be honest. I think Jones is going to fight Izzy, and then I think he's just going to do what he does and just relax. And he can just stay number 1 until he fights Miocic in 2022.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Who was your number 5 again? Sorry.
Number 5 was Dustin Poirier. So I've got Poirier, Izzy, Usman, Miocic, Jones.
That's interesting. I mean,
it's a good list.
It's a great top 5. It's not too dissimilar from mine, to be fair. But yeah, I think Dustin's he's going to beat McGregor. I completely agree with you. The last 7 years, he's completely changed his game, and McGregor has kind of fannied around for the last 5. So I just don't see how he can get past him without just getting a lucky shot in the first round. If it goes out of the first, I don't see Poirier losing to him. A great top 5. I think very plausible top 5. I think both are, to be fair, so far. Have you got any comments you'd like to make, Jimbo?
No, I think it's very plausible. The only reason I put Covington up there is because I don't think he's actually ranked in the top 15 UFC pound for pound at the moment. So I just thought I'm going to throw him up there, and I want a wild welterweight year.
Don't get me wrong, mate. I want him in there as well, but I just can't see anyone beating him. I really can't. I
think you can put Usman and Covington in a ring, an octagon, and they can fight 100 times, and I genuinely think 50 times will be won by Usman, 50 times will be won by Covington. So it really just depends. Say Covington's personality, if you know it's a gimmick, it's quite funny. If you just get annoyed, if it can be annoying if he takes some of the things he does seriously as well. But I think it's just criminal. It's criminal that he's not in the top 15 at the moment.
He's in mine. He's in mine and he's in yours. So without further ado, it's going to be a bit of a shake-up in my UFC next year. And number 5, my prediction is next year there are going to be 2. By the end of 2021, there's going to be 2 two-weight champions. And my first one at number 5 is Deiveson Figueiredo. I think he's going to beat Garbrandt. He's going to win his fight this month. He's going to beat Garbrandt. I agree with what you're saying, KDiggy, about the power. I don't think flyweights are going to be able to contend with the power of Garbrandt, but I don't think his chin's going to hold up when he takes that extra 10 pounds off. And Deiveson hits hard, and he's going to knock him out stiff. He's going to have another quick defense after that, at which point he's going to say, I'm off up, I'm fighting Aljo, and he's going to knock Aljamain Sterling out. He's going to have 2 champions. He's going to be stood there looking strong next year. Number 4, Usman. I just don't see anyone getting past him at the minute. Like you're saying, KDiggy, he's powerful, he's strong, he's got that composure, that focus, and as long as he maintains that composure, doesn't look past people, I don't see him losing. I don't. Chimaev can do what he wants, but as long as Kamaru Usman turns up with that mentality, that focus, that championship mindset that he already has, I don't see anybody getting past him. Number 3, this guy is going to lose to one of my top 2. He is not going to be there with one loss, a questionable loss to Matt Hamill anymore. It's going to be John Jones at number 3. He's going to lose next year. You've heard it here first. He's going to lose quite comfortably. I can't get into who he's going to lose to because that will give away my number 1. Number 2. Number 2, our second double-weight champion is going to be Israel Adesanya. He's not going to have any trouble with Jan Blachowicz. Yeah, Jan Blachowicz is going to be stronger. He's going to be more powerful. But I think he's going to sit on the outside. He's going to tactically maneuver around. He's going to hit him with some light shots. He's not going to finish him. He's just going to school him for 5 rounds with leg kicks, body kicks, and jabs to the head. It's going to be that. He's going to get the championship, and he's going to hold it because of what he lacks in size and strength. Is going to make up for in speed and accuracy. So I don't see him losing at either division. And then number 1, my man, Stipe Miocic. He is going to fight John Jones after he's fought Francis Ngannou, and he's going to beat him. John Jones is not ready for the size and power of heavyweight. You've seen it when he's fought, the likes of Reyes, Gustafsson. He struggles against big people. And when he's got people that fight at that size commonly, he isn't going to be ready for the strength, and he's going to lose, which is going to put Stipe at number 1, having beaten the pound-for-pound king for the last decade.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, wait.
It's good. It's set up for an exciting year in 2021 anyway. I think, however, whichever way it goes, if it plays onto anyone's scenario here, I think it's
win for an exciting year, aren't we?
Definitely.
Your Davis and Figueiredo take. This is a man who got schooled by Juicy Formiga.
He didn't get schooled by him. Didn't get schooled by him.
This is a man who got schooled by Juicy Formiga. I believe he lost 30-27 to 29-28. It might have been 29-28, but he lost.
Just play.
He's a changed man. Look at Jan Blachowicz. Look at Jan Blachowicz. There was a time when he was on the chopping block and he's champion now. People change the game, and my boy Fig is going to change his game. And he's going to be a double-weight champion next year.
He is a change man.
He's a big flyweight. He's a big flyweight, and he's going to hit even harder at bantamweight.
It's pretty interesting how we've all got the same top 3. There
or thereabouts, isn't it?
Different order, but same three. Oh no, I have Izzy at 4, don't I? Yeah, so we've got the top 5 is pretty similar, but no, it's exciting, really. So we'll sort of see. Say again?
I love the Stipe scenario.
Yeah.
Stipe is going to be number 1 pound for pound next year. He's going to beat John Jones. No doubt in my mind.
If he does, love it.
No doubt in my mind, Stipe is going to win that fight if it happens.
So what then? 400 days from now? Well, what would it be like? 380 odd days from now, we'll know who was the closest. We'll see if Frankie Old Man Edgar is still it's still fighting. We'll see if
419 days.
419
days until
my wedding day.
31st of
We'll
December.
we'll whip out the recording. We'll do a live podcast on my wedding day.
Yeah, we'll all be suited and booted.
Yeah, but
top table
takes.
Right.
We'll come back to these lists in a year's time, and we'll see who was the closest.
Yeah, we'll put the lists up here, and here.
We'll see who the closest is.
And pause it now if you wish to look into more. But no, it's I think that went as expected. I think a few curveballs from everyone's list.
They're recording in the corner.
Yeah, we're still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording. So I think I'm sort of happy with how it all turned out. So we'll have to see who's winning it.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
I'm saying it's me. I think both of you have got very plausible scenarios, but I think we'll know very early in next year as to who's going to be closest, because there's a couple of fights that are going to be coming up, and if they don't go the way that we're expecting them to go, the lists, I think all our lists, to be fair, apart from possibly Jimbo's, will be in disarray.
Yeah.
If Leon Edwards beats Hamzat Chimaev, my list is gone. I've got 3 people in there who are well away. My list will be gone.
You're banking on a Chimaev win in December. If you don't get that, your list is dead. I think both of your lists are dead, to be fair, if that don't come in.
I just thought, you know what? Lockdown 2. That might make a difference to Leon Edwards, who I originally had in the rankings.
Yeah, you're both banking on a Khamzat Chimaev win. Otherwise, your lists are done early.
We'll see.
I'm also banking on Brandon Royval winning in his next fight.
Some big
if Brandon Royval loses.
Right, this is Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Peace out, brother.
Goodbye.